looks at where we are. We're approaching a national debt is approaching $40 trillion, 40.05 trillion dollars, more than double the nearly 20 trillion left when Trump was out, and he's only increasing it. We are in a standoff with countries around nuclear weapons, and Trump is moving the vessels from South Korea, who is a major training partner in the United States, to the Middle East, and said yesterday, that he's going to be meeting with Kim Jong this year, the dictator of North Korea. And many of you remember he met with him 3 times when he was president last time. At the same time, he's buckled down on his whole obsession with building and modeling monuments to him. He took the White House press corps yesterday on a tour to show them the new flagpole, and show them the new gardens, and show them the helipad that's going to be named after him at the White House. And this is where you can enter the ballroom. While people are struggling to pay for gas and groceries, we are in an unprecedented age where the sitting head of state has nothing but contempt for the needs of the average American people, and doing it every day. He put a woman in the Senate. Her brother died, Lindsey Graham, senator from South Carolina, esteemed senator for many years. I disagree with him on most policies, but he was an esteemed senator. And yet, when he dies, President Trump appoints his sister to fill his seat. In one of the first outings, she's asked about a foreign policy and American interests, and she says, I'm not good on foreign policy, but you're going to put it in the Senate. This is the level of political chicanery that we're at. And it would be comical if it wasn't so dangerous. I mean, we're actually flirting with people's lives when you're dealing with the economy can't sustain people being able to buy their staples and take care of their families. So it's time for us to do the only thing we can do: rise up, vote, attend gatherings, get our little blocks together. Well, remember, what's that going to do? It's going to do what it did in the first place. The Voting Rights Act we lost, that's how they got it. Gatherings, marching, organizing. The Civil Rights Act that we got that led to diversity, equity, inclusion, that's how we got it. You know, one of the things that makes me, I want to use the right word, annoyed, let me put it that way, is when I hear people saying, well, Mal, we ain't no further than we were in the 60s. Well, to some degree, that's right. But we made a lot of progress in between the 60s and now. We got affirmative action, which got a lot of people jobs. We had aid to education in HBCUs, got a lot of us degrees and educated and into high position work. We had DEI, where people were on boards of color and got high positions in the suites. We got racial profiling laws passed. We got stopped and fresh stopped in most major cities. We got a lot done in between the 60s and now. But the reason it's not much different than the 60s is we lost a lot of those things because we got too comfortable and forgot how we got them. It wasn't like we didn't make progress in 60, 70 years. Is that we let them erode the progress we had made by not voting, by coming out with any negative we could on whoever we could. Kamala is a woman, and I don't know if she's black enough. Okay, she got Trump. 16, Hillary's a woman, and they say that she had some documents at the house that they can't find that were classified. And you got Trump the first time. And in between those two terms, voting rights changed. He stacked the Supreme Court. Voting rights gone. Diversity gone. They're going to take affirmative action out next. I mean, don't act like it just nothing made progress. Lot was progress. We blew some of it. That's right. Take the blame for what you did. Sit around talking about what we didn't get. We got a lot. A lot more than our grandparents had. A lot more than our parents had. And we blew it on excuses and pettiness and backstabbing and backbiting. Obama wasn't black enough. Harris wasn't black enough. I guess Trump's black enough for you. I don't know why we marching, because that's how we got attention on our issues in the first place. You ain't never been to a march. But you can go to the club. You can go to a sporting event. Nothing wrong with either, but if you got time for entertainment, don't you have time for empowerment? And if you don't, at least shut up and act like you know you're part of the problem, not the solution. Let's talk about all of that. But sometimes I just get annoyed when I hear people. You know, I guess one of the things that excited me this morning, I was on Morning Joe, and they had on two authors that's written a book about Mahalia Jackson, the gospel great, and how she was an activist on top of being one of the great gospel singers of all time. And then I sat there in the studio talking about Mahalia Jackson, who I met as a kid when I was a boy preacher. I preached on a couple of her shows before I was 10 years old. But when I sat there in the studio looking at these pictures of her with Dr. King and her singing at the March on Washington, the exact location we're going to week after next, and I thought about how we sitting around complaining now and we let all that go, it just incensed me. I am not mad at the MAGA folk or Trump. They doing what they do. I'm mad at us for operating with Negro amnesia, where we forgot how we got what we got, and engaging in the pools of pettiness, just bathing in it. I don't like this. I don't like the way this guy ties his shoe. I don't like the way they wear your hair. What are you talking about? They're stripping us of our rights. They're stripping our kids of their education. They're putting people born and raised here out, deporting them. What are you talking about? See on the message board, Christina McDaniel says, but that's why I say it's not Black Lives Matter, it's all lives matter, because we step together, we march together, we help our city together. You got white people in our city and you got black people in our city, you got Mexicans in our city. Yeah, we need to fight for everybody and everybody need to fight with us. But let me tell you something. People can't join fighting for you if you ain't fighting for yourself. Latrenda Torrance Salter says, speak the truth, Reverend Sharpton. I'm trying my best as long as I can. Let's take a break. I'll be right back. It's Policy Day. We're going to dig in and hopefully get some of us to stand up. Keeping it real. Sharpton. 1-877-532-5797. Be right back.
Thank you for joining us for Weekdays Live with Reverend Al Sharpton. Take the time to share this broadcast right now. Tell your friends it's time to keep it real with Reverend Al. Comment your questions now in the chat or call Reverend Al Sharpton directly on air at 877-532-5797. Now stay tuned for Reverend Al.
This is Reverend Al Sharpton. As you watch the broadcast, support National Action Network. Go to www.nationalactionnetwork.net and be involved. You can join, take your membership right online, www.nationalactionnetwork.net. Getting ready to start the program, but we need you to be part of the movement. Is a house of justice. Robert Culp used to do a show with Bill Cosby, I Spy, and he did a documentary on breadbasket, Robert Culp.
Oh, wow.
You need to see that documentary. It's great.
Absolutely.
I lived this. I didn't read this. I was there.
You true to this?
I'm true to this.
Not new to this.
I ain't new to this.
Vote to phone true.
He was, Jack O'Dell was one of the guys that Kennedy warned Dr. King about. Say he was a communist.
Wow.
Jack O'Dell and Stanley Levinson. And Reverend brought him in. Nobody else in the movie would deal with Jack. Reverend brought him in.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Just us.
Just us.
But there's stories behind all of it. It didn't just happen.
But I am somebody. I may be on welfare, but I am somebody. I may be in jail, but I am somebody. I may be an educator, but I am somebody. I am black, beautiful.
Me, Jesse. When he came to go speak at the UN, he said, I'd first go to Harlem to see those that fought for me.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, we keep it hung up in the house.
It's a great photo.
Some of you forget where you come from and forget how you got there and act like you got there because you were qualified or that you had a good resume. But some of us had to pay a price for your resume to even be read. Some of us had to take nights in jails and licks upside the head or shut out of boardrooms like Byron so you could walk down red carpets and act like you got there by yourself. So I received this award with a special place in my heart and on my shelf because I'm getting it from a freedom fighter who never forgot where he came from and how he got there. Yes, we've come a long way. We've had now a black president and now a black vice president. But we still can get shot down and have to march to get a case in court. We still can get shut out of boardrooms. We're still doubly unemployed in a good economy. So we're going to have to keep marching. And I thank not only my family, a mother that raised me by herself, but I thank that lady at the end of the march that knows she won't be on TV that night and knows her name will never be in the paper, but she believed in me enough to get at the end of the line and make me look good. Because Dr. King used to say, keeping it real, keeping it real. Shows up, you just going for a walk. I am your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, 1-877-532-5797. And as we are now in the countdown to the big march next Friday, a week from tomorrow in Washington, and buses leaving and people leaving from all over the country, we also are working to unify all of us of color in the black and Latino, Asian community. Many will be marching with us. The voting rights decision by the Supreme Court, the reversing diversity, equity, and inclusion impacted dramatically all of these communities. And this race-based deportation movement. One of the key figures that have been a leading civil rights leader in the Asian community and who be speaking at the march is the president and executive director of Asian Americans Advancing Justice, AAJC, which is a national civil rights organization focused on protecting the rights of Asian Americans. And he's a nationally recognized attorney and an Asian American civil rights leader, and he's led AAJC since 2017. I've worked with him on several issues. His name is John Yang. How you doing, John?
Reverend Al, it's always great to be with you. And a pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you for being on. Tell me why the August 28th Defend the Vote with Martin III and I and you. And why are you standing in solidarity? Why is it important to you?
Well, it's so important for us to stand in solidarity right now because, as you know, there are people that are trying to drive us apart, trying to suggest that, your problems are not my problems or that somehow that we should stand with other people. But we know that what's going on is people are trying to exclude all of us. I mean, all of us are facing discrimination in different ways, having rights taken away in different ways. And so it's important to stand together at this moment, talk about all of our rights as voters, all of our rights as consumers, and to make sure that people understand that we're not going to be split apart, that we share so much in common.
Now, what are the biggest voting barriers that Asian Americans are facing?
Yeah, I think there's two big ones. One is just, the right to vote early and to vote absentee. Asian Americans vote in higher quantities, either early or absentee. And part of that is because we oftentimes face language barriers. About 30% of our community are limited English proficient. So we like having the ballots at home, taking a little bit of extra time to look at the ballot, read the ballot, understand it, rather than having the pressure at the ballot box. Especially now when there's fears about ICE agents being at the polls, I think that's all the more reason that we're going to feel a little bit more safe voting by mail. The second piece is the voter ID piece. And some people say, well, what's so hard about that? Well, I mean, and you know this, Reverend Al, people have always used these different devices to suppress our votes. You know, they say it's supposed to be neutral, but we know it's not. You know, how many white people are going to be asked for their IDs as opposed to black people, Latino people, Asian people? And then if you're asking us to have an ID that exactly matches our passport or our birth certificate, knowing that some of our birth certificates are from different countries, that's also a way for them to suppress our vote.
Do you, there are times there's some tensions in the black and Asian communities, and you and I have talked about it and have had to deal with them on both sides. But do you think people are also understanding that there's a general threat to all of us when we lose our voting rights, and all of us when we lose diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that whatever differences we have on the ground are minor and we need to resolve them, but we can't resolve them at a sense of our being powerless?
You're right, Reverend Allen. This is where I'm so happy about our work together. Because, look, and I'll be direct, yes, there is some anti-blackness in the Asian community, and I'm trying to do what I can to fix that. But also in this moment, I think our Asian community clearly sees that, like, they're out to get all of us. And so when there's an attack on the black community, we recognize that that's an attack on us as well. And so, especially in this moment, when we have these authoritarian people, these people that basically want to be dictators telling us what to do and how to stay in our place, all of us need to band together to say no, and here's where we all stand.
Well, I think that is absolutely correct. Let me ask you this: in terms of the global picture, it is something I think about all the time. If you had a global understanding with people of color, which are African Americans, Asian Americans, Asians, all the way across the board, Latinos, that's the majority of the world. And I think that it is some few oligarchs that love to play us against each other so that we don't have a democratic process that reinforces each other even on a global level.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Because they are trying to keep all of us separate. You know, what we all hear is like, stay in your lane. And part of that is they feel like if they can make us stay in our so-called lanes and not work with each other, then it's easier for those that already have the power to retain that power. There's no question about that.
Yeah, I see Todd on our message board saying an attack on blacks is an attack on Asians. And I think we've got to see that. And I've stepped up without you even calling us, saying when there's been blacks that attack Asians, no, we're against that. And I've gone and stood with that. And you've done the same with us. And I think that that's what we've got to, you know, it takes some courage to stand up to white authority. It takes another when we stand up in our own communities against some that do things wrong in our community. That's the test of leadership.
I completely agree. I think about the Asian American officer that was part of George Floyd's murder in Minnesota. And at that time, although our organization got some hate mail for it, we thought it was very clear for us to say that officer was in the wrong. He should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law because, you know, frankly, he was being racist, and we can't have it.
All right. Well, that's why we work together, and we will continue. I'm looking forward to seeing you and a lot of those with you from the Asian community on August 28th. Thank you, John. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. Keeping it real. Sharpton, 1-877-532-5797, 1-877-532-5797. Be right back.
This is an important notice to all U.S. taxpayers. The IRS is giving away billions.
So who is Al Sharpton anyway? Who is this 33-year-old preacher without a church?
A number of black New Yorkers as well. He is little more than a pudgy exhibitionist who can be counted on to show up, bullhorn in hand, at every racial incident.
I often quote Mark Twain saying, the two most important moments in life is the moment you are born and the moment you find out why you were born. I had a very troubling conversation the other day that prompted me to do this little video. Young man that I've known a while came to me and he was crushed. I mean, really crushed, because people were criticizing his work. He's in the ministry, but he's also an actor. And he said he couldn't understand why people were jumping all over, criticizing him, trying to find scandalous and derogatory things about him. And I told him, I said, you know, you very young. You don't know the road I've traveled. They call me everything but a child of God.
Racial discord, a blabbermouth, a loudmouth, too flamboyant, an agitator, a racist,
I
a race
had to
baiter.
learn.
Yeah, right.
I was not defined by how others saw me. I was defined by how I saw myself and whether I was being true to myself. Some of you watching this don't like me. And it doesn't matter as long as I know what I'm doing. And I like me for being real. So I'm doing this video to say to you, whoever you are and whatever you do, you may not be in ministry or social justice, none of this stuff, but don't live your life worried about opposition or people that don't like you. You can turn that around. Use me as an example. The same people that called me a scam artist, a con artist, a sellout, or racial hustler and all, I kept going. And the people I respected started respecting and publicly embracing my work.
When Coretta Scott King, the widow of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., had this to say about Al Sharpton.
A leader who has protested injustice with a passionate, unrelenting commitment to nonviolent action in the spirit and tradition of Martin Luther King Jr. And I am talking about your leader, our leader, the Reverend Al Sharpton.
The other thing that hasn't changed is the National Action Network's commitment to fight injustice and inequality here in New York City and across America. And that's not only a testament to Reverend Sharpton, it's a testament to all of you who are here tonight.
First and foremost, to Reverend Sharpton. I saw him when he first came on the scene, and I have marveled at his tenacity, at the development of his intellect, and his devotion to our movement, and much he has contributed to the world we are experiencing. I am honored, and I must say that when I had my debate with Dr. King on the issue of the church and religion, he didn't warn me that after his departure, his space would be filled by another preacher, and that preacher would be Al Sharpton.
All you want in life is people that matter to you to say you did all right. And more important, that you can look in the mirror and say you did all right.
Thank you, Rev. Thanks for that introduction. Look, we've known each other for a long time. I'm grateful not only for your leadership and partnership, but quite frankly, more importantly, for your friendship. And thanks to all of you, members of our nation's most important civil rights organization.
You have been, over all of your years, such an extraordinary leader. You are a voice of truth, a voice of conscience, a voice of practicality around what we must address and what we can do. And I thank you so much for your friendship.
I remember that most of the youth around Al's age, he was about 12, wanted to be like Connie Hawkins, a great basketball player, legend, or Earl the Pearl, or Clyde Frazier. Al wanted to be like Adam Powell, a powerful preacher with a social justice gospel. He was very close to, at that time, to Reverend William Augustus Jones, powerful preacher and social justice advocate, and Reverend Gardner Taylor State right down the street, and Bishop Washington, whose church he came from, and Reverend Sandy Ray. He wanted to be like these giant preachers. He wanted them to have the edge, however, of the King's social justice dimension. He wanted to be like them. Now he's one of them. Perhaps taller than most of them because of the risks he has taken and the reward God has given him with his gift. I remember so well that I first escorted him to jail. He was around 13 years old. With the jail fighting the ANP. He was in the lineage of our struggle. He grew up in it. We didn't just see him on TV one night. He didn't happen. He came bottom up, not top down.
I remember I was 12 years old. I was a boy preacher in the Church of God in Christ. Bishop Shear knew my bishop, Bishop Washington. Bishop Washington, my mother was concerned I was getting into politics. They brought us to Reverend William Jones. His daughter's traveling with us. And Reverend Jones introduced me to Jesse Jackson. I became his youth director in New York at 13. I liked Reverend Jackson because he was a little hipper than the older preachers. He was 27, I was 13 by the time I became youth director. So he was like a father figure to me. When I got about 40, he said, quit calling me father, call me big brother. We went to the car center, and James Meeks and Jesse Jr. and I had dinner with him that night. And that's where he said to Al, me, Jesse Jr., y'all are my disciples. And we said disciples. And for years we joked each other. I'd come in the room and Junior said, here's disciple number one. But discipleship meant you carried forth the vision. The next day, he took me on the ferry to Goree Island, Mrs. Jackson. On Goree Island, he showed me where the slave camps were.
Keeping it real, I'm your host.
And I'll never forget, he said,
Al Sharpton, and we're back. 1-877-532-5797 as we get ready for the march in 8 days. And I wanted to bring on some of our partners in leadership because all of our communities need to come together and deal with this assault on all of our civil rights. And John Yang was on. I want to bring on now Juan Perano, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the League of United Latin American Citizens, LULAC, one of the major civil rights and longest standing Latino civil rights organization. And he served as CEO since 2023 and will be part of the march. But even more important, is on the front line of civil rights in this country. Juan, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Reverend Sharpton. It's wonderful to be with you today.
Now, tell the people around the country why the Latino community is suffering, in your judgment, unfairly with the rescinding of many of the voting rights that we've enjoyed, and why it is important for us to be united across communities that have this collateral damage together.
Well, thank you, Reverend Sharpton, for allowing me to talk about that. So for those that don't know, LULAC was founded in 1929 in Corpus Christi, Texas, and we're the oldest and largest Latino civil rights organization. We were modeled after the NAACP. The NAACP has chapters, we have councils, they have members, we have members. And a lot of the suppression and oppression that you saw in the South, Mexican Americans suffered that in the Southwest, in Texas, in California, Nevada, New Mexico, and Arizona. There were signs that read no dogs, no Mexicans, no Negroes. Latinos were not able to be buried even after military service in World War I and World War II in the cemeteries in their own communities in some cases. And so Latinos have marched and struggled side by side with the Black community on these voting rights issues. And we benefited from all the incredible work that the civil rights movement did. And so we've benefited from the 1965 Voting Rights Act. And, you know, our challenge now is to make sure that we have every single pathway for Latinos to be able to engage and vote. It wasn't until 1975, 10 years after the Voting Rights Act was passed, that language was allowed in the ballots, where Latinos were able to actually get a ballot in their own language to be able to vote. And so we're now seeing all of those rights being restricted and rescinded.
Now, the whole question of immigration and deportation has been a main hallmark in this Trump 2.0. How has that affected and impacted the Latino community nationally? The profiling of Mexicans, profiling of others has certainly hit a lot of people I know that are Latino that have been born and raised here. Give us a picture as the head of LULAC, the largest and oldest Latino civil rights organization, of how this is dealing with it on the ground.
So, Reverend Sharpton, DHS was allotted $170 billion as part of H.R. 1, okay, to scale up its immigration enforcement actions. They were more recently allocated another $70 billion on top of that $170 billion, bringing us over $230 billion. DHS was fully funded through the end of Trump's administration. Their goal is to deport upwards of 3,000 immigrants per day. They want to rid this country of over 12 million immigrants that have had a long-standing residency in the United States. Regardless of how they've entered, many of those entered legally through an asylum program or refugee program. Many of them have been in this country for 10, 20, 30 years, have U.S.-born children, have small businesses, pay taxes, and contribute to the overall growth and expansion of our economy as well. And so we haven't seen anything like this in a generation. You'd have to go back to Operation Wetback, for example, back in the 1920s and 30s, okay, when they deported over 3 million Mexican Americans. When they round up immigrants, they round them up based on their skin color. They round them up based on their surnames. They round them up based on the language that they speak, not verifying or checking their immigration status or even their citizenship status, okay? And so what you're seeing today through these Kavanaugh stops are racial profiling efforts where you will be stopped not knowing what your immigration status is, not knowing if you're a citizen or not. And in the worst case scenarios, they're rounding up immigrants who may be undocumented in this country, may be working on a pathway to citizenship, have applications and cases in front of immigration judges, but when they deport them, they're also trying to deport them with their families, which could include U.S. citizens. And when they separate these families, they're leaving these children alone in the United States without a parent, without a guardian, and without the ability to be able to defend for themselves.
Why is August 28th important to you and LULAC?
Well, you know, it's just wonderful always to be in community and in partnership with you and the National Action Network. Latinos have benefited tremendously from the work of the civil rights community, and it's our turn to show up and step up and speak up for the voting rights of all minorities across this country, not just Latinos. You know, I've said it before, Reverend Sharpton, Latinos can be racist too, okay? And so it is our job to root out that racism where it exists, and we have to do that through education, and we have to do that through community and call to action, just like the March on Washington. So I can't wait to be there in Washington, D.C. with you next week to march side by side and to join you, and with all of our members and all of our supporters as well.
Let me ask you this, a political question. I know LULAC, like Nashak's network, is not partisan, but have you sensed a shift in some of the voters who had been pro Trump and felt that his deportation policies have made them feel like they can no longer go that way? I'm beginning to see that in polling. Have you felt that shift?
We've seen it in real time, in special elections and primary elections as well. Donald Trump's disapproval rating among Latinos is now at 70%. 70% disapprove of his policies and the work that he's doing as president. At the same time, we have seen that over 20% of Latinos that voted for him in 2024 are now reconsidering that vote, which would bring Latino voting for the Republicans back to kind of sort of what it was pre-2016, to give you an idea. And so, I believe that this is going to be a snapback election. I believe that many Latinos and Latino men, like me, I did not vote for Trump, but Latino men are reconsidering that vote, and that they can and may come back to the Democratic Party. If they vote their values and they vote their virtues, we should have new leadership in the Congress and potentially in the Senate after the November election.
All right. I'm very happy that you are with us, so Juan, and I look forward to hearing you and being with you at the march next Friday. Juan Prozano, who is the chief executive officer and the president of LULAC, the League of the Nations, the League of United Latin American Citizens, the nation's longest standing and certainly most populated civil rights organization. Thank you, Juan, for being with us. And let me say,
your leadership.
Thank you. Let me say this as we get ready to go to break. I thought it was important for our listeners of all races to understand the march next Friday, a week from tomorrow, is for everybody because everybody's under attack. And that's why I wanted to start this show today, and we're going to get to policy and Attorney Jennifer Jones-Austin to be on with us. But I wanted people to understand that I do not want us not to show up in the black community, and we got other communities that's going to show up to stand with us because they're suffering too. And both you heard from the leader of the top Asian American organization and Latino organization said, yeah, we got to deal with some racism in our community. They're not denying there's some anti-black Asians, anti-black Latinos, and there's some anti-Asian blacks and some anti-Latino blacks. But if we all came together and voted together and stood together, we could back them up for all of us while we say what our differences are. There are some legitimate differences that we need to deal with, but we need to first be dealing on an even playing field. And that is why it is important that they be with us and we be there. And that's what I'm trying to do. The other thing that I think is interesting is that we cannot let the media reduce this political period as just socialists against capitalists and not talk about race. Blacks suffer from racism no matter how rich they are. The racial profiling laws we marched and got put on the books was because they were stopping wealthy blacks going down the Jersey Turnpike that had multi-million-dollar homes and pulling their cars over because they had nice cars. Their problem wasn't affordability. Their problem was blackness. Same thing with Latinos. They're snatching young Latino kids, accusing them of being illegal foreigners just because they're Latino. Same thing with Asians. So yes, affordability is a huge problem. It's even worse in our community. But race still is a problem even if you're a black billionaire. So it's not one or the other, it's both and. When they start throwing black kids whose parents were doing well, living up in Westchester County, I remember one family, Scarsdale, and they threw their kid up against the wall in the trains that brings them into the city. That's when they start saying, you know, Reverend Al ain't that bad. Racial profiling is bad. And maybe we got to look at Reverend Al differently. As long as I was fighting for racial profiling in the hood, they thought it didn't mean nothing to them. But when it got to Scarsdale or Beverly Hills, they said, wait a minute. Maybe we should be marching. Yeah, maybe you should have always been marching before it got there. Let's take a break. We'll take a break. I'm coming right back, going to the phone. 1-877-532-5797. 1-877-532-5797. Sharpton, keeping it real. Be right back.
Thank you for joining us for Weekdays Live with Reverend Al Sharpton. Take the time to share this broadcast right now. Tell your friends it's time to keep it real with Reverend Al. Comment your questions now in the chat or call Reverend Al Sharpton directly on air at 877-532-5797. Now stay tuned for Reverend Al.
This is Reverend Al Sharpton. As you watch the broadcast, support National Action Network. Go to www.nationalactionnetwork.net and be involved. You can join, take your membership right online, www.nationalactionnetwork.net. Getting ready to start the program, but we need you to be part of the movement.
Reverend Sharpton, how do we begin to make peace with our past?
I don't think it's our obligation to make peace with our past. I think it's our obligation to learn from our past and to understand that soon we gonna be the past. I mean, a lot of us act like we gonna be permanent and that the past is the past. If we draw on the strengths of the past and uphold the dignity and the integrity of our people, and then perform it at our highest level in our generation, as Dr. Moss said, that's our obligation. You know, one of the reasons that I've been so concerned about this cultural tone that we're in now is a lot of us have lost the dignity that our community has shown from Jamestown to now. I've questioned some of the artists that no longer sing to uplift us. And there's never been a generation that didn't use our music and our culture to lift us up. And the excuse is where they say, well, we just want to show what's there. But we never just accepted what was there. We always looked at what was there and looked through it and brought our people the way it needed to be. So in slavery time, we were singing Go Down Moses and Swing Low Sweet Chariot. We wasn't singing about the cotton picking nigga in the field. That's what we saw, but that's not what we sang. In slavery, in segregation time, In segregation time, we were singing "We Shall Overcome." Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. We wasn't singing "The Hole in the Back of the Bus." So where is this coming from? And that's what we need to challenge. I wish, all of this about our friend Barack announced it today. I wish Obama had announced here, because Lincoln did not free us. The abolitionist movement freed us. Lincoln accommodated to freedom fighters. He was not a freedom fighter. Kennedy accommodated the king. Johnson accommodated the king. We got to quit giving the wrong people credit for our history.
Is a house of justice.
Well, thank you, President Dr. Kimber, and to all of you on the board. I wanted to personally make this appeal from National Action Network and Martin Luther King III and Andrea Waters King, that we've been moving around the country organizing to deal with the question of redistricting, when they have used the Supreme Court now to redraw lines that will in many ways break up majority black voting districts. It means that they dilute the strength of our community. It will cost probably 19 members of the Congressional Black Caucus. But as important, if not more important, it will not address the needs of those constituents, because they don't have a block vote to say we're going to put in somebody that wants to do what is right for us or not. And that does not necessarily all the time mean a black person, but it gives them power. In Memphis, Tennessee, the majority black district congressman supported and reelected several times by the blacks there was a white man named Cohen. So we see this as an undoing of the Voting Rights Act of 65 and the Civil Rights Act of 64. So on August 28th, we've asked people from around the country to join us in Washington, D.C. for a mass march. We've had some marches and rallies in Mississippi, some in Montgomery and Selma, but we need a national march led by the clergy, led by the faith leaders, like it was in the 60s, that will say it is a moral outrage that we would, in a time like this, disenfranchise wholesale black voters by repealing the Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act and by turning the time back. We've heard from a lot of groups, but we need this to be church-led. National Action Network is appealing to you, the president. Reverend Dr. Boise Kimber has been on our board for years and knows this well, and the many of you that are on the board. But we need to send a national message in a peaceful, nonviolent gathering led by the clergy, along with Dr. King's son, along with his daughter-in-law, and along with other leaders. But it's time to dramatize it. We see the No Kings March. We see everybody out there rallying. Where's our voice when we're the ones being disenfranchised? We're the ones being attacked. And I think that if we would stand up, the people will step up, because the people understand the gravity of the hour. And I think that we are called upon at this point in history to do what those leaders of the black church did before our time and in our childhood. So I thank you, President Kimber, for giving me an opportunity to make the appeal to the board. itself, or you have the information, we're going to have buses from all over the country. Those churches that have buses, we give information. Those that don't, we're willing to help supply them. But we need to show a big number right in the nation's capital. History should not say they stripped us of everything and there was not a national response led by the black church. Thank you very much for these few minutes. From and forget how you got there and act like you got there because you were qualified or that you had a good resume. But some of us had to pay a price for your resume to even be read. Some of us had to take nights in jails and licks upside the head or shut out of boardrooms like Byron so you could walk down red carpets and act like you got there by yourself. So I received this award with a special place in my heart and on my shelf because I'm getting it from a freedom fighter who never forgot where he came from and how he got there. Yes, we've come a long way. We've had now a black president and now a black vice president. But we still can get shot down and have to march to get a case in court. We still can get shut out of boardrooms. We're still doubly unemployed in a good economy. I am your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're back 1-877-532-5797, 1-877-532-5797. Or we can go to our message board, nationalactionnetwork.net. Let me say by way of announcements, don't forget, we are live on Politics Nation on this Saturday and Sunday, as we are every Saturday and Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to have some of the winners of the primaries this week on. I know that El Said from Michigan will be on one of the nights. I'm having others. And what that means, I'm going to have some of the people that are confronting Trump in court on some of these projects that he's building at court at taxpayers' money, at taxpayers' expense. You're going to want to watch both nights. Saturday at 5 and Sunday at 5 live on MS Now. Saturday morning, I'll be at the Saturday Action Rally looking for you that are in the tri-state area. It is the send-off rally for the march next Friday. Make sure you're in the house at the House of Justice, 5 Hancock Place on really, it's 124th and Morningside at 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. You that are not in the New York area can watch it live on Impact Television, nationalactionnetwork.net live stream, or you can watch it at YouTube/NAN, YouTube/NAN, or on the AME Zion conference. And then I hope all of you met the deadline. We're still getting calls. There may be some room in some buses. You can take a chance. But the deadline was last night for buses to the march in Washington on next Friday. And we got 10 buses coming out of Texas alone. Going to take that long ride because people understand what is at stake and what we need to be doing. And as you just heard, we have Asian American organizations pledging to be there, Latinos. This is the real solid civil rights answer to what the administration is doing. You need to be in the house. All right, let's go to the phones. We haven't taken any phone calls. Let's go to Ray in Cincinnati, Ohio. Ray.
Yes, sir. Thanks for taking my call, Rev. Rev, I loved your intro when you first came on. You're exactly right. But a person's color is the first thing a race is going to see. Tim Scott is not immune to it.
Right.
Byron Donalds is not immune to it. Clarence Thomas is not immune to it. The problem is they think they are. And when they got a chance to do something about it, they refuse to do anything about it. Now, when you had mentioned race has got to be an issue, but a lot of these candidates refuse to make it their number one priority. Affordability is an issue, the economy, but race is right up there. You asked a question yesterday. I had already called, though, but, give you, I think you wanted 2 or 3 things that you're going to want to vote for.
Right.
Right? And so, also, Rev, when was the last time the White House lost jobs? I mean, when was the last time? I mean, this White House last month, I think they lost jobs.
Right.
That's unheard of. I don't know how far back it goes, but this is the first time I've ever heard the White House losing jobs. Thousands of jobs.
And firing people. Don't forget, they came in, announced Doge, brought in Elon Musk to look over Doge, and they cut tens of thousands of federal jobs. Elon Musk. Now Elon Musk, wait for it, came out and said that Derek Chauvin, the policeman that put his knee on the neck and killed George Floyd, should not be in jail. Elon Musk said this, that he shouldn't be in jail. They ought to give him a pardon and let him go. And the reason Trump can't give him a pardon is because we all marched and stood up, got the Governor Walz, who was the running mate of Kamala Harris, to appoint a special prosecutor who was the Attorney General, Keith Ellison. Keith Ellison wouldn't have automatically got that case. The local DA in Minneapolis would have got it, who may not have prosecuted or may not have done as good a job. Keith Ellison did an excellent job, won it, so it's a state convention. So Trump can't pardon that. But that's who we're dealing with.
But, Rev, it was the marches, even before George Floyd, even after George Floyd. The jury or the judge or they just didn't say, hey, okay, we're gonna convict these cops. It was the marches, it was the rallies,
no
it was
doubt
people
about
speaking out.
No doubt about
it was people speaking out. So I mean, folks better just wake up and realize where your life is going to go if Republicans get back in. Because I've always said Trump is trying awfully hard to have the majority these last 2 years. He's up to something, and I don't even think no one knows what it is but him. And if you think Americans think they got it bad now, wait until they get it off. But I will say this: the Republicans have nothing to run on, Rev. They even screwed up immigration. Now Latinos and there's different types of Latinos. They understand what black folks have been going through. Asians, they understand now what black folks have been going through because they're being targeted. So people better wake up. All right, Rev.
Thank you for your call. Let me go to Rick in Germany. Rick. Is Rick there?
I'm here, Brother Sharpton. Can you hear me okay?
I do hear you.
Okay. I have lived with a Latino, Portuguese, Spanish last name for most of my life. And I understand that the black, Caucasian, Jewish, Latino, Hispanic, and Mexican unity that we had in the 1960s under Martin Luther King's leadership has fragmented. The criminal element in the black and Mexican and Latino Hispanic community has a stronger voice than the voters in our communities. And this must change. I'm done, brother man.
All right, thank you for your call. And totally agree with that. I think that it is important that we stand up. And let me tell you something. To work in coalition does not take away from us. It strengthens us if we don't lose our own identity as who we are. If you are so insecure you can't work with people other than your own, that means you got insecurity about your blackness. I can work with any coalition and be as black as I am on keeping it real. But I tell them that, wait a minute, we're going to be on the agenda. And when it comes to things like economic exploitation and policing, we're at the top of that agenda. I'll support you, but you got to support us. Otherwise, it's not a coalition, it's a co-option. I believe in coalition. I do not believe in co-option. And there you got too many of us that are happy to just be part of something. Whether it's the right wing, when you look at a guy like Byron Daniels, or whether it's some of the left wing that throw up 2 or 3 black faces, but their agenda does not regard or even address race. Not one time. And I've been saying that. I said it again this morning on our morning job. I've been saying on my show, affordability is a critical issue, but there's a race element in affordability. The medium income level for blacks and whites are different. Therefore, affordability spends differently based on income and on zip code. And if you want to talk about that, if you don't want to talk about that, you don't want a coalition with me. Let's take a break. Be right back. More of you on the phones. 1-877-532-5797. Sharpton. Keeping it real. Be right back.
Reverend Sharpton, how do we begin to make peace with our past?
I don't think it's our obligation to make peace with our past. I think it's our obligation to learn from our past and to understand that soon we gonna be the past. I mean, a lot of us act like we gonna be permanent and that the past is the past. If we draw on the strengths of the past and uphold the dignity and the integrity of our people, and then perform it at our highest level in our generation, as Dr. Moss said, that's our obligation. You know, one of the reasons that I've been so concerned about this cultural tone that we're in now is a lot of us have lost the dignity that our community has shown from Jamestown to now. I've questioned some of the artists that no longer sing to uplift us. And there's never been a generation that didn't use our music and our culture to lift us up. And the excuse is where they say, well, we just want to show what's there. But we never just accepted what was there. We always looked at what was there and looked through it and brought our people the way it needed to be. So in slavery time, we were singing Go Down Moses and Swing Low Sweet Chariot. We wasn't singing about the cotton picking nigga in the field. That's what we saw, but that's not what we sang. In slavery, in segregation time, we were singing We Shall Overcome. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. We wasn't singing the hoe in the back of the bus. So where is this coming from? And that's what we need to challenge. I wish, all of this about our friend Barack announced it today. I wish Obama had announced here, because Lincoln did not free us. The abolitionist movement freed us. Lincoln accommodated to freedom fighters. He was not a freedom fighter. Kennedy accommodated the king. Johnson accommodated the king. We got to quit giving the wrong people credit for our history.
dream is not dead.
I'm here because I must be here. Democracy is not there for the pig, and you have to fight for democracy. That's what it is. What Trump will erase, we will replace.
It's the dreamers in many cases have reversed and tried to turn it into a nightmare. We come to Wall Street rather than Washington this year to let them know you can try to turn back the clock, but you can't turn back time. We gonna keep the dream alive on Wall Street.
I've been in the Essence Festival since 1995. I came that year with my mentor and we spoke. Well, he died in February this year, but I want to continue what he taught us, because even when times look bad, even when they look dark, I remember what my mentor taught me, Reverend Jesse Jackson. He said, keep hope alive. Even if you can't figure it out, keep hope alive. Even if it doesn't look like you can make it, keep hope alive. In memory of Jesse Jackson, say that with me tonight. Let him know on July 4th from New Orleans, keep hope alive. 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 Thank you, God.
It gets dark sometimes, but the morning comes. Don't you surrender. Suffering breeds character. Character breeds faith. In the end, faith will not disappoint. You must not surrender. You may or may not get there, but just know that you're qualified and you hold on and hold out. We must never surrender. America will get better and better. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. On tomorrow night and beyond. Keep hope alive. I love you very much. I love you very much.
I thank God I was blessed to have both in my life. Both historic, strong figures. But if I misuse them and listen to not only figures that are not as historic as them, but figures that had nothing to do with the calling and purpose of my life, I would live confused. I'd be double-minded. I'm clear. And what I want you to do is be clear. Clear on who you are and why you are. And a lot of that will be exposed to you and others by who you are around and who you allow to enter your head. Keep people at a distance that only have a distant and unclear vision of who you are and who you are supposed to be. They could be your blood relatives, but they could not be the ones that accompany you toward what you ought to be about tonight. Everybody good to you ain't good for you. Everybody that makes you laugh sometimes end up making you a joke.
The only thing that will matter 2 minutes after you're gone is what you did for more than yourself. Think about this. Think about if today is your last day. If this is your last service, what can they say about me? And if you're not satisfied with your own answer, you should leave here today working on yourself and building on what you need to build. Because God is here. He's available to you if you but use what he's giving you to be more than self-indulgent. Now, I know many of us come with reasons we won't step out. But I come to tell you that's why God is here. God takes the ones that are the least likely and gets the most done. As I have seen in my life, people that were the unexpected and rejected are the ones that end up the greatest. So don't let whatever mistakes
keeping it real,
or whatever things that
I am your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're back. 1-877-532-5797 on Policy Day. We are joined, as we are every Thursday for the last 90 minutes of the show, by the CEO of the Federation of the Protestant Welfare. People passing me notes while I'm trying to talk. She's the Chief Executive Officer of the Federation of Protestant Welfare Agencies in New York, Vice Chairman of the National Board of the National Action Network, and, of course, our policy wonk expert on this show, the attorney Jennifer Jones Austin. How you doing, Jenny?
I'm doing all right. I've begun my duties, if you will, as serving as the chair of the Civilian Complaint Review Board. So today's been a day of making the rounds and talking with various law enforcement agency leaders just about the issues and challenges, that present in policing and policing fairly our communities. So I'm in it, sir, trying to do my part.
No, it's a huge appointment, and certainly given your profile will be a national model for how we deal with civilian review around the country. Let me ask you, the challenge for many in the community at a ground level, people that call us on this show, people that are part of NAN, people that are part of other groups, is that at one level, we do not want to see police abuse and police misconduct and police profiling. At another level, we don't want crime. So we want the proper policing. I don't think many of us agree. I saw Angie, who's running in Florida, just won the primary, who is a member of DSA, said, no, I'm not for defunding the police, but I am for reforming the police. And I think that's my position.
That's my position. That is my position as well. I think that if many of us can speak of either direct or indirect incidents that we're aware of or that we've been a part of where things have not, the relations with the police have not been what we may have hoped for. But, I would imagine that if we're being sincere and honest, we can also speak to instances where police were working with us and helping us, and it's a matter of finding that right balance. It's a matter of making sure that there is accountability. When you've got police officers who are not respectful or discourteous, engage in misconduct, and making sure that we strike that right balance. I sometimes think about, sir, when I was in 9/11, and I was walking through the streets of 9/11, 6 months pregnant, with my 3-year-old daughter, covered in soot and debris from the buildings falling, and not knowing where to go or where to turn, and seeing a police officer who had to stand there in the midst of it all while it looked like New York City was under attack and people didn't know what to do. And I saw him covered in soot too, and I went up to him and I asked him, where do I go, what do I do? And with tears streaming down his face, he said, I don't quite know. I'm just doing the best job I can in this moment.
Wow.
And right,
Wow.
like this is he was putting his life on the line for many of us, and it's like these are human beings too. And as in any organization, institution, there you'll find any organization, institution, education, healthcare, right, child welfare, whatever it may be, you'll find bias and you'll find racism. But that doesn't mean that systems in and of themselves are just outright, or everybody in them. And that's why we have to do this work with fairness and transparency, figure out how we improve the system so that they work better for our communities. But we don't want to be left out there. If there's crime, we want it taken care of. We don't want to be on the receiving end and not have anybody taking care of us, but we want it done fairly and appropriately.
Going to the phones, 1-877-532-5797. As an attorney and as a national policy leader, Elon Musk has come out saying that they ought to pardon Derek Chauvin, who was convicted in the state's courts in Minnesota of the killing of George Floyd with his knee on his neck, saying that he was treated unfairly. Now, of course, Walz, who's the governor, is not going to pardon him. It has to be a state pardon. Trump can't do it. And Walz, who ran as running mate to Vice President Kamala Harris, is not going to do it. But just the thought of someone of his wealth with government contracts and who was head of DOJ that fired 30 to 40,000 federal workers would have that kind of commentary, it's got to be unsettling at best and outright outrageous to me.
Yeah, I could not disagree more. I mean, the biggest challenge that we have in all of what has transpired over the course of the last, I guess now year and a half, or I guess I'd add more because we take the first 4 years of Donald Trump's presidency, is the domination of airwaves with false narrative. And essentially what Elon Musk is doing is he is engaging in false narrative. He's arguing that that George Floyd's death was not, due to Derek Chauvin and his misconduct. He's saying, well, this man had a pre-existing condition, and that's what essentially was the underlying cause. No, the best way, the only way you think about it is we all walking around with pre-existing conditions of some type or another, health or otherwise, right? But if you do something that exacerbates the problem, then you should be held liable. And that's what's happening here, or that is what happened when you had him found guilty, and 2 autopsy results showed that this was a homicide. It's not just that somebody has a pre-existing, it's the actions that were taken that exacerbated the problem. But again, we're dealing with false narratives that then, with persons like Elon Musk and the platform he have, begin to, take flight and then, cause further dissonance among the masses and people buying into this lunacy. I want to say something else, but I'm holding back because we're on the airwaves. But this is just, this is, no, there's no there. This is wrong, and it's just him abusing his power and his platform.
I absolutely agree, and I think that the fact that if a person of a different persuasion had said that about something as blatant and videotaped as that, they would not be enjoying federal contracts, less known be given federal position. He can have whatever opinion he wants, but he can't do it while we're taking care of his contracts, in my opinion, and should not be able to do it if we are, in fact, allowing him to make government decisions. Because if that's how, it wasn't even like he tried to be balanced and saying, I condemn what the guy did with his knee, but I don't think that caused the death. He exonerated Chauvin Period. End of story. When the whole world saw what he did. That's who you put over federal and workers. Let's take a break. Be right back. Keeping it real. Sharpton, Jones, Austin. Be right back.
If you owe the IRS back taxes, you need the best team on your side. Priority Tax.
First, I want to thank you personally for writing a foreword to this book, Reverend. I wanted to write a book that was different from the many books that have been written about my dad, which about
When he came to go speak at the UN, he said, I'd first go to Harlem to see those that fought for me.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, we keep it hung up in the house.
It's a great photo.
look at everything. I went a couple of nights to go to the Knicks game. They lost. Last night I said, I'm not even going down there. I'm going to go to bed. I got to fly to Hampton on to Chicago. And by halftime I said, man, they ain't going to win this game. They down 29 points. And somebody here today
You've been down. They counted you out. People say there's no way you come back. But I come to tell you, don't quit. For there's another half to play. And God will take you and let you win when the odds are against you. I know they talk about you, but preach anyhow. I know sometimes the pews are empty, but preach anyhow. And when you get up almost where you could win, I looked at it last night and Brunson took the shot. It looked like it was going in to win the game, but the shot hit the rim and all hope was gone. But then an African named Boyd OG just stretched through the crowd and he kicked in the winning shot. If you hold on, God will tip your win.
Voting rights!
Voting rights.
Everyone look here.
Say it again, Ms. Pearl.
Voting rights!
Voting rights. One more time, Ms. Pearl.
Voting rights!
There we go. Voting rights.
Voting rights!
Voting rights.
Voting rights!
Voting rights.
When do we want it?
Now.
When do we need it?
Now. Yesterday.
What do we want?
Voting rights.
When do we need it?
Now.
What do we want?
Voting rights.
When do we need it?
Now.
Where's oh, I see I'm in today's New York Times word puzzle. And they're asking what is Al Sharpton's title for short. It's Rev. I didn't know everybody knew that. But the people in the New York Times, they didn't call me Rev. They should call me Reverend. No.
You live, sir.
Keeping it real, keeping it real. I'm your host.
Keeping it real.
Reverend Al Sharpton.
Keeping it real.
Attorney Jennifer Jones Austin is our co-host. Jenny, one of the things we've done the last couple of days on the show is have leaders of different civil rights organizations in different communities. We had head of LULAC on today, the largest Latino civil rights organization. We had John Yang on, the largest Asian American organization. All of them talking about they're coming to the march and why they're coming, why their people are coming. Give our audience from a policy point of view why the march is important and the policy decisions that have been made in Washington warrants a public and clear messaged agenda at a huge gathering in Washington like they did 63 years ago.
So let me first begin by saying that the march title, "Defending the Vote," it captures the essence of what this is all about in a nutshell. Everything in America at this particular point comes down to voting, and voting for individuals who will represent our best interests. And when I say our best interests, I say our best interests as an African American woman, speaking both about the African American community and women, especially when it concerns reproductive justice, but I'm also thinking about the collective. I'm thinking about society on the whole, because so much of what is happening in our society right now, while affecting Black Americans and women in very real and significant manners, is affecting the nation on the whole. And what we know is that who we put in office dictates and drives who will be making decisions about our best interests. And so defending the vote is first and foremost. Now, let me add that what we also know is that in the last year, just the last year alone, that when we look across the country, we've had more laws, more changes in voting that have that will prove harmful and disastrous for people voting. More restrictive voting rights. We have better than 40. We have about 41 states that have engaged in lawmaking that has resulted in more restrictive voting practices and rules. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. And so if we're not out there demanding that our voices be heard with our vote, we will have nothing. Now, when we look at what the vote, actually, like what underlies that vote, who we vote into office, if we don't have our votes, we have no say in wages in America because the federal government sets the living minimum wage. If we don't get out there and vote, we have no say in our health care. As we know, the federal government has cut Medicaid and Medicare significantly, harming disproportionately black Americans, but all Americans, right, who have low income and can't afford private health care insurance. We know that who is in office and who is making decisions about our food, the health and nutrition of our food, but also who has access to food. That's determined by Congress. That's determined by our legislators. So if we're not voting in people, if we don't have the opportunity to vote into office people who are going to represent us and make sure that we have healthy food, then we've got bigger problems. You don't have your health, you don't have your food, you don't have good nutrition, you can't function. You can't even begin to think about how much money you're making because your health is everything when it comes to your ability to take care of your family and to earn an income. We know that voting has everything to do with education. We still see today that even though we have Brown v. Board of Education, we still see that brown and black predominant, community schools where kids who are black and brown represent the great majority of kids, they receive significantly less dollars in funding for their educations. We know that we still have, even if the graduation gap has been closed, we know that black and brown children don't have the same level of reading and math proficiency because their schools are starving for critical resources. That has everything to do with our voting rights, who we elect to represent our needs. And so this march is so critical. One of the things that I keep on thinking about, Reverend Sharpton, is when Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., when they had succeeded in getting the Civil Rights Act, and he went back to Lyndon B. Johnson, and he said, we need a Voting Rights Act. We need a bill passed to ensure that we have federal protections for voting rights. And Lyndon B. Johnson said to him, I don't have any more political power. When he walked out of that office, the leaders that he was with said to, when Dr. King said, we gotta get this voting rights bill passed, the leaders he was with said to him, well, you heard the president. He said, we don't have any political power. He said, well, we got to go get him some political power. And that's when they begin marching on Selma. Marching makes a difference because it shows that people are engaged, they're concerned, and they're not just going to sit down and let things happen to them by the legislators, by the executives, by the executive branch, the judicial branch, and the legislative branch. Rising up and marching makes a difference. And that's why I'm going to be there. That's why my organization is going to be there. That's why my family is going to be there next Friday, August 28th.
All right, let's go to the phones. I love it. Let's go to Sky in Richmond, Virginia. Sky.
What I would like to say, what the young lady just stated about food and everything like that, yes, we need to be careful. Make sure we get out there and vote because they got a lot of stuff called bioengineered food. It's just clone food that they're serving us. It has no nutritional value. But I just wanted to touch bases on that. Also, I was calling about Donald Trump is up to something. One of your callers stated that he's up to something. And I looked at the 2020 census, and it says, like, from the Middle East, 3.5 million people was allowed to come in the United States. So I know the census comes out every 10 years, but I think if you go back like 2010 and during Donald Trump presidency, during around 2018 or something like that, I think he had allowed a lot of people from the Middle East to come in the United States, and now that he's the president again, that's why he's deporting so many immigrants out of here, like the Latinos, the Haitians. He's just trying to get rid of us people of color. So I wish you all would go in and look at that census and look at how many people allow. And not only that, I travel a lot, go around doing whatever. And I see that a lot of our doctors and everything of that nature are coming from the Middle East. So, in the Middle Eastern countries, and it's just, we really need to monitor that. Also, I would like to say, Donald Trump this morning on TV, he stated that if the allies don't come and help him to attack Iran, that he's going to basically call on Kim Jong-un. He said Kim Jong-un he has a good relationship with the North Korean President Kim Jong-un, and he's willing to come in and assist him in defeating Iran. And I'm like, to me, that's a statement that he made could be considered treason. Why would you use Kim Jong-un to come and help you in a war situation? So with that being said, I would like somebody to really try to investigate that. But, yes, we do need to get out and vote because so many people from the Middle Eastern, like Qatar, them different countries are being allowed to come in. I mean, I don't want to pinpoint a country like Qatar, but it's just that they are coming in. And we really need to investigate that. Why is 3,000 Latinos being deployed every day? Hello? Am I still there? Hello?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was on the other side of the room
okay.
signing some stuff. I'm all right. I'm listening.
Oh, okay. But yes, Mr. Sharpton, but we really need to be focused on the voting. Absolutely. Because at this rate right now, I think they are trying to just demolish our race. People of color, the Hispanic people, and we do need the Asian people. We need to unite. We really need to come together. But if you can take a look at that census chart and look at how many people are allowed, and under Donald Trump presidency, a lot of people are coming in this country and we don't even know because he could allow people to come in and not have to go through the airport, the checks and everything you go through to make sure you're in this country legally. He's just bringing people in. You don't even know they're coming into this country. So, and one more thing I would like to mention. This Grand Prix race that they having in Washington, D.C. this week, which costs a lot of money, I think it's over $200 million. First of all, how are you going to build a racetrack through the nation capital and it's already congested there? I mean, really, people are so upset that he's building this racetrack, and then the people that he allowed to get those type of jobs to build it and this and that are people, once again, the refugees coming in, getting these jobs. That's, so we need to monitor that. I don't know who allowed him to decide to have a racetrack in the heart of our nation capital, which is inconvenient a lot of government employees, workers, and then the people that's getting the jobs is not none of us. It's the people that gave him the plane that are getting the jobs. So it's just he's doing too much far as I'm concerned. And with that statement that he's going to use Kim Jong-un to assist with him in defeating Iran, that should be a top priority with the senators, the House of Representatives, everybody. He made a statement like that. To me, I feel like our country's in trouble. It's going to be another Pearl Harbor. I keep saying the bombs are coming, and Donald Trump knows this. That's why he's hastening to try to hurry up and defeat Iran. But you know what? Now that Kim Jong is aboard, Putin is aboard, and what's the other guy? Ping is aboard. All these communist people aboard. We need to wake up. We need to wake up.
We better wake up.
March on August the 28th. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'll look for you in Washington, August 28th. You need to wake up, look up, and get up. Don't wake up and stay laying in the bed. Wake up, look up, and get up. Otherwise, you're going to remain in the same condition you're laying in. Let's take a break. More of you on Policy Day with Attorney Jennifer Jones Austin and Sharpton. Keeping it real. Be right back. Keep it real. I see I'm in today's New York Times word puzzle. And they're asking what is Al Sharpton's title for short. It's Rev. I didn't know everybody knew that. But the people in the New York Times, they didn't call me Rev. They should call me Reverend. No. So we are fighting. That's why I said to deal with this DEI situation. You must be disciplined and do studying, because unless you do structural change, we'll keep coming right back to this over and over again. I spoke Wednesday night at Yale University, and I told them students, some of those brightest students in the country, Yale, Harvard, I spoke at Yale, and told them there is a structural problem, which is why Trump and Vance and President Elon Musk, they can come in and put us backward because the structure was never corrected. They walk in the door and say NDI, because structurally they can make that stand. We've got to break the corporate world from doing it and then straighten out the structure of how this country is. Why we ought to be sending people to Congress is not sending them to Congress because they had the robocalls call your house, but they're committed to the structural change of this country. What Trump is successful on is playing on a weak structure, so he can make it go either way. It should not be so unclear that you can play the game either set away. It must be firm that you got to repair the damage done to the children of the slave and straighten out the structure that we are not 3/5 human. We are full human beings that built this country and never got paid. That's what reparations is. Well, Reverend, it looks bad now. Look at Iran. Look at what's going on in Minnesota. Look on. Yeah, but I was raised by them to realize that after storms, if we do the right thing in the storm, if we organize, if we register, if we do what we're supposed to do, there's always a rainbow coming out. The rainbow don't show until the storm is over. The rainbow gonna come out in November. The rainbow gonna come out in 28. We gonna fix these tricks in 26 and march through the gates in 28. We didn't come this far to turn around now. We won't go back. We won't go back. We won't go back. No justice. No justice. 62 years ago today, Martin marched in Washington. 62 years later, the dream is not dead.
I'm here because I must be here. Democracy is not there for the pig, and you have to fight for democracy. That's what it is. What Trump will erase, we will replace.
It's the dreamers in many cases have reversed and tried to turn it into a nightmare. We come to Wall Street rather than Washington this year to let them know you can try to turn back the clock, but you can't turn back time. We gonna keep the dream alive on Wall Street.
they are changing what can be taught. You have states outright saying you can't teach black history and you can't teach certain other histories and the curriculum. You have this administration that is literally taking out exhibits from the Smithsonian. So we have not only an education problem in terms of resources, we have an education problem in terms of curriculum and what people are being taught. So I have one grandchild, 6-year-old. When he gets to high school, it may be just against the law for him to learn about certain parts of American history, which includes blacks. We want to talk about slavery. We want to talk about the good side of America. Well, what does that mean? That's not history. Everything was not good. And I think that that is the threat that we've got to fight, which is why we've got to fight in the courts and the streets, because they're literally changing the textbooks as we go. As they do that, they change the opportunities, because then the fight against affirmative action is not having access to these institutions and telling these institutions, this whole fight around DEI, in which they did, started at Harvard with a black woman president. Started with them saying you can't teach diversity in an Ivy League school like Harvard. It didn't start in Little Rock at the high school. This fight, this time, was Harvard. And they went from there on. And I think that we've got to have the same resistance. If they could fight in the 50s, the ACP would have been formed together and deal with the question from Little Rock in terms of desegregation. Then we that are far more educated, far more economically secure personally, have no excuse in the age of what they did in Harvard not to be standing up back in this.
Many people cannot focus because they have not really come to terms with their calling and life purpose. In order to focus, you must also be clear on what you're focusing on. So if you're not clear on your purpose, if you're not clear on your life's calling, then focus on seeking that. Because if you just read the ways and roads you traveled that you didn't even choose, that were sort of just laid out for you by God, in that it's telling you, speaking to you about what your purpose is and what you were born to do and be. I learned the things that I didn't plan had to be planned by God, and God's plan was directed toward God's purpose in my life. And I focus on that. Not focus on what others do, not focus on how well they're doing or bad they're doing, but focus on whether I'm in line and aligned with what I'm supposed to be about. And in order to move straight ahead, you have to be focused on the path you're running on.
Is a house of justice.
I got stabbed leading one of those marches.
Keeping it real with America's #1 civil rights leader, the Reverend Al.
Keeping it real, keeping it real. I am your host, Reverend Al Sharpton. Attorney Jennifer Jones Austin is our co-host. Going to the phones in a minute, 1-877-532-5797, or on our message board. I see Yolanda Abrams says, morning from Chicago. Well, morning back at you. And I am glad you joined us. Jenny, one of the things that we are seeing as the primary elections now beginning to come to an end, and the candidates for November, the general election, are being sized up, is that a lot of the black districts have now been folded into other districts in Tennessee and Texas and Georgia and Florida and many places. And it is going to take us standing up for what we want, voting rights, enabling us to stand up, and building alliances where we can become the majority in these districts to put people in that will align themselves and advocate and stand for what we want. That is why there's a challenge from me and others that those that claim they are progressive need to also show that they're progressive about race issues, and they deal with the problem of racial inequality. Now, you have become known nationally for your equity reports and your commissions that have really documented the inequities in the city of New York and nationwide, and what that imbalance means. Talk about how in the middle of this move to try and struggle, we've invited your vice chairman of the board, some of the progressives to be at the march. Bernie Sanders is going to be there. AOC is going to be there. Then some of the mainstream, most of the congressional black caucus will be there, many of the senators. And the civil rights leaders and activists. We had Brittany Packard on yesterday, some of the young activists. We're trying to get everybody together to have a majority so we can win. But we cannot align, or a better word, we cannot coalesce unless we're clear about the data, and that it is not only a progressive problem, it is a race problem.
Right. Absolutely, absolutely. I think that one of our greatest challenges when we hear people who are identified as progressive talk about social reform, and many of them would be classified as socialists, and in the Democrat Party, Democrat socialists, not everybody, but many. What they're talking about very often is social reform that kind of has a let's make sure we take care of everybody, health care for everybody, universal child care for everyone, free busing, free groceries for everybody. And with this kind of notion that if we achieve that, then everybody will win and everybody will succeed. The challenge sometimes is that they don't appreciate that, or it seems that they don't appreciate that we're starting at different places. And that in one respect, something like universal child care. Well, universal child care is good, but the problems that black Americans have and black communities have is that child care is not the only inequity that we experience. We can make sure everybody has universal child care, but when our public schools are woefully underfunded, then that's not going to ensure, universal child care alone is not going to ensure that every black child has the best chance at a quality education from grade school, elementary school through high school. And so not looking at how the black community, their educational challenges may look different from, the universe, if you will, is problematic. Same thing when we talk about, let's say, home ownership or health care. When we engage in a socialist view, it doesn't help to always appreciate, without the critical conversations that need to go hand in hand, that everybody's not starting in the same place. That black Americans, continue to suffer in just about every economic and social indicator, whether it be housing, home ownership, health care, life expectancy, whether we're talking about income, we're talking about wealth, we're talking about access to jobs, we're talking about education and debt. In every one of these areas, because of structural deprivation, we suffer all the more when we are not given a chance, like equity and equality. And so what happens is the progressives need to come to the table and understand that we've got to look at these issues through the lens of black Americans and understand that, as we've talked about with Todd sometimes, giving everybody $1,000 is not necessarily going to solve, the problems that black Americans face, because if I give somebody $1,000 who already has $100,000, then that $1,000 becomes kind of like monopoly money to play with. But if I give $1,000 to a black family that doesn't have any wealth, then they're paying the bills, right? And they're not paying all the bills. So the two have to come together. Socialists and people who advance ultra-progressive agendas have to understand we're not all starting out in the same place. And so the policy agenda has to be crafted in such a way that it sees the acute struggles, the acute deprivation that black Americans have suffered since the beginning of slavery.
Let me go to the message board, and then I'm going to I see Drop Squad says, Reverend Al, why are Democrat socialists having problems getting black voters to support their socialist agenda? And then after that, I see Tricia saying, I agree, just overlook the CBC and the old guard that's been holding it down for us. And I think that's therein lies the tension, that many feel, obviously from the vote count, that the black community does not align with some of what they're saying. But my contention, and I hope the march is the beginning of that, is that if we can broach everybody on the same general page, we may not agree on everything. If we agree on 70%, we need to get those that are opposed to all of what we are opposed to out of office. And we cannot look for perfection. Sometimes you got to look for advancement. But some things are uncompromising. Our right to vote, and I think all of us need that. Mm-hmm. And I think all of us need that we must stand up and do what is right. Let's go.
Can I say a quick thing on that?
Yeah.
The representative in Florida, I think her name is Angie Nixon, a black woman who identifies as a Democrat socialist. She won out over moderate, and I heard her on Morning Joe talking about the importance of not labeling at this particular point Democrats as Democrat socialists or centrists or ultra progressives for the purposes of essentially saying who you vote for and who you don't vote for. She said the labeling gets in the way, and she talked about how, everybody's talking about people don't have the resources they need to meet their daily needs. Well, we've got to all come together and understand that the Democrats are talking about people not having the resources to meet their daily needs, while the Republicans are taking away the resources that help them meet their daily needs. And so the Democrats are aligned, and we got to do something about our daily needs and the resources. It's a matter of how we're going to do it, but at least let's agree we're all aligned on that, and let's go to the polls and make sure we get in place, and we can do something about that. If we don't come together, the Republicans who aren't concerned about us meeting our daily needs are going to stay in power, and we're just going to be worse off.
And I think that is the real underlying message. I think that it is important that we come to the table and see if we can get into a principal argument if we need to. Talk about where we have disagreed and where we can agree. And I don't think that we can spare feelings, because some things are, in my opinion, worth being said. But then having said that, can we have a real bonding that serves the issues that all parties agree to? Because all of us, in many cases, are fighting the same enemy. And I tell students when I go on college campuses that you can't be progressive fighting Netanyahu, who I totally oppose. But then when we stand up against redistricting, you're not there. Or you can't be global revolutionaries and domestic laryngitis. You got to stand up right here. And a lot of that is also the reverse. A lot of us want to deal with affirmative action, DEI, but don't want to say that we're opposed to cut a deal with Netanyahu that is anti the rights of Palestinians. Can't have it both ways. Either you're for right or you're not. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. Keeping it real. Keeping it real. Sharpton, Jones Austin. Be right back. I had a thought this morning that I wanted to share with you about mentorship. I am able to do a lot of what I do because I had great mentors, but there are correct ways and incorrect ways to mentor people, in my opinion. I was mentored as a boy preacher by Bishop F.D. Washington, one of the great Pentecostal preachers of his time. Then Reverend William Jones became my pastor after Bishop Washington died, who was unquestionably in the top 5 black church ministers, theologians. Reverend Jesse Jackson, who I started my activism under his leadership, he and Reverend Jones. And I learned politics directly as a youth director from Shirley Chisholm. So even though I didn't finish college, I had the most unique education in the world from being exposed to giants. But the one thing I learned is as I grew older and people started coming younger than me and wanted me to teach and mentor them, the magic of the mentors I had is they did not want me to be their clone. They wanted me to learn things from them and use my own gifts and talent in my own unique way and let me do things on my own, because they knew that if I flopped in some things, it would teach me for the other things. They'll come and help me once I was down, but they were not going to have me avoid being down. And they were not going to impose themselves on me. Why am I saying that? Because too many mentors want clones. And too many mentees want their mentors to put them on a pedestal. Oh, so-and-so didn't do this for me. Oh, so-and-so didn't open doors for me. If they got to open doors for you, it may mean that they knew you weren't ready to go through those doors. Their job is to prepare you. Your job is to develop your own skills, your own unique ways. And I don't care if it's my daughters, who both have come into their own, or anyone else. I'm not a talent agent. I did not form National Action Network to give people their step up. I formed it to fight for justice for everybody. If talented people get in, it's my job to invest and give them a platform. It's their job to get on the platform and perform and show their ability. Sitting with me today in the office as I talk about it is one of my mentees, Reverend Stephen Marshall. Now, Stephen, you just came around us when you were how old?
11 years old.
11 years old. You just turned 40, and now you're called to the ministry?
Yes, sir.
And what do you do in National Action Network?
I formulate policies, lead in various regions, but most importantly, I senior advisor you on all things from social justice strategies, politics, intergovernmental affairs, you name it, community organizing, all of that stuff.
And I could go through scores of others. My daughter started Huddle. They got Huddles now, which is for young people to meet once a week all over the country. I just saw the video from the Las Vegas National Action Network chapter. Now, when you decided to preach, did I ever tell you to become a preacher?
Not one time.
Who called you to preach?
The Lord.
All right. And did I say go to this school or that school?
No, sir.
Did I open this door, that door? Did I tell you be ready when the doors open?
Always be ready and prepared.
And that's what I'm saying. Get you some young people than you that you can help along the way. But don't be their talent agent. Their talent must speak for themselves. And anybody that grumbles with you about so-and-so didn't do something for them, maybe it's because they didn't feel you were ready, or that they felt if they did it, you wouldn't do it on your own. But we all don't live forever. I want the next generation to speak of me, of National Action Network, and others, the way I speak of Reverend Jones and Bishop Washington and Shirley Chisholm and Reverend Jackson. But I just don't want young people to feel that somebody ought to give them the reins of leadership or give them the reins of business or whatever it is you're in. You need to learn from their journey, get the pearls of wisdom from them, but don't have them do for you, because then it means you can't do it for yourself. Robert Culp used to do a show with Bill Cosby, I Spy, and he did a documentary on breadbasket, Robert Culp.
Oh, wow.
You need to see that documentary. It's great.
Absolutely.
I lived this. I didn't read this. I lived it. I was there.
You're true to this.
I'm true to this.
Not new to this.
I ain't new to this.
Vote upon truth.
He was, Jack O'Dell was one of the guys that Kennedy warned Dr. King about. Say he was a communist.
Wow.
Jack O'Dell and Stanley Levinson. And Reverend brought him in. Nobody else in the movement would deal with Jack. Reverend brought him in.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Just us.
Just us.
But there's stories behind all of it. It didn't just happen.
But I am somebody. I may be on welfare, but I am somebody. I may be in jail, but I am somebody. I may be an educator, but I am somebody. I am black, beautiful.
Keeping it real, keeping it real. I'm your host, keeping it real, Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're back. 1-877-532-5797. Attorney Jennifer Jones Austin is our co-host. Let me straighten out a little confusion. Akeem Smith is saying that he was told he still doesn't have a seat from the Stamford, Connecticut bus. And I just talked to Reverend Christian, who I told Akeem to call yesterday, who said he does have seats. So will you call Reverend Christian right now? I don't understand why people like to discourage others when I try to remedy what they said. I just told you yesterday, talked to Reverend Christian, I just talked to him, and he said he talked with you and your mother's on the bus. So let's not spread false information, Brother Hakeem. All right, let's go to the phones. Let me go to Disco Brian in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Disco Brian.
Hey, Rev. Just wanted to say, you mentioned Keith Ellison, Minnesota's Attorney General, who held George Floyd's murderer accountable. I don't really like saying that man's name. Ellison also did something really commendable here, and I just can't thank him enough. In Philadelphia's 3rd District, he endorsed Pennsylvania State Senator Sharif Street for the U.S. House. He endorsed the black Muslim candidate I proudly voted for. And then the progressives stormed Pennsylania's 3rd District to get the guy who said the Bondi Beach massacre in Australia was a false flag elected. Same guy who strongly suggested in a private chat I had with him that maybe you, Rev, were suspect. Maybe you're an establishment tool because you worked with the FBI in the 80s to bring some mobsters to justice. But, Rev, I don't want to litigate the past.
Well, then why do you? I mean, every day, wait. Every day we can't go through this. We understand what happened in the election. And I'll go to another. Come on. We can't do this every day. We've gone through the election. The election is over. I'm trying to deal with how we save this country. I don't need to hear every day the same thing. I get it. You don't trust the DSA. You don't think the socialists is right. You used to be with them. They're wrong. I get it. But, I mean, we got to deal with what's in front of us right now.
Rev, I'm not angry. I'm not angry or heartbroken. I'm not angry about it.
I'm not telling you not to be angry. You can be angry and heartbroken, but we've got to proceed. I can't every day relitigate a campaign and an election that's over.
Listen, Rev, I want to apologize for my line of questioning yesterday because I never intend to trap you or ask a gotcha.
I gotta go. Come on, we eat up. I have a lot of respect for you, but you take a lot of you took a lot of time with stuff that. Come on, you smarter than that. Let's deal with the issues. Come on, we don't need to go back to tomorrow or whatever. What's on the table today? Come on, let's go, Brian. What's up?
All right, listen. I ask questions here as a white Gentile male and a failed sinner praying for God's grace, trying to be the best advocate I can for our pluralist democracy. Black, Jewish, Muslim, Christian, Hindu, Buddhist, and agnostic people of conscience figuring out how to wield power together. And I seek your moral clarity, and sometimes I feel the burden to say things I know you can't say, given your role shepherding a very diverse flock, and I try to respect my place here as often the lone white voice. And that being said, Rev, most of my instincts are borrowed. Most of my insights are borrowed from black creators and thinkers who are smarter, more talented, and much sexier than I am. And a few days ago, I called the offices of every straight white Gentile male Democrat in Congress, every one of them that I could, and demanded that they speak out loudly and often against misogynists, racists, and Jew haters and call them out by name. Obviously, when they're MAGA, but more importantly, when they're claiming to speak for Democrats. Because when white male Gentile Democrats stay silent about bigots getting celebrated as the new face of the progressive left, we put bigger targets on the backs of Democrats who are already targeted, namely black and Jewish women, the top two most loyal parts of our coalition. White male Gentile Democratic silence forces them, black and Jewish women, to do the work that we should be doing while we lean on our white Gentile privilege to stay comfortable. So, Rev, if there's one thing your morning meditations have taught me, it's this. It doesn't matter how popular someone is. If they quack like a bigot and pal around with bigots, they're a bigot. And when black, Jewish, or female Democrats defend an influential millionaire podcaster aligned with DSA who's a bigot, then they're defending bigotry. That must not give white male Gentile Democrats permission to stay silent about it. And the reason I'm calling this show, Rev, is because there are no other shows like this on the planet Earth that are as important and sacred. And
yeah, but again, I respect that you came with some new things today. All I'm saying is that you should, if you called all of the males, as you say in the Congress, we need to know that. But to hear everything about an election that you voted for and all that loss, I'm not going to entertain that every day. And what I'm saying is the clarity you speak is good, but you cannot take a whole segment to keep going over the same grievances. I have and to say that you're saying things I can't say. I say everything I need to say. It's not that I can't say it. Some things are strategically not wise to say. It's not what I can't say. It's what I choose not to say for a higher purpose. Thank you for your call. Let's go to Todd. Wait a minute. We'll have to take the break. We'll come right back. Keeping it real. Sharpton. Be right back. I was 12 years old. I was a boy preacher in the Church of God in Christ. Bishop Sheard knew my bishop, Bishop Washington. Bishop Washington, my mother was concerned I was getting into politics. They brought us to Reverend William Jones. His daughter's traveling with us. And Reverend Jones introduced me to Jesse Jackson. I became his youth director in New York at 13. I liked Reverend Jackson because he was a little hipper than the older preachers. He was 27, I was 13 by the time I became youth director. So he was like a father figure to me. When I got about 40, he said, quit calling me father, call me big brother. We went to the car center, and James Meeks and Jesse Jr. and I had dinner with him that night. And that's where he said to us, Al, Meeks, Jesse Jr., y'all are my disciples. And we said, disciples? And for years we joked each other. I'd come in the room and Junior said, here's disciple number one. What discipleship meant, you carried forth the vision. The next day, he took me on the ferry to Goree Island, Mrs. Jackson. On Goree Island, he showed me where the slave camps were. And I will never forget, he said, Al, you see what that artifact is? I said, what's that? He said, they call it the door of no return. When you go through that door, you either made it to America to slavery, or you died in the Atlantic. The door of no return. But I talked to him about 3 years ago. And I reminded him, I said, remember when you brought me to the door of no return? He said, yeah. I said, well, we did return. We returned the President of the United States, Barack Obama. We returned the Vice President,
Kamala Harris. We returned with businessmen. They thought they sent us as slaves. We came back as global liberators. The problem is that too many of us did not join the movements that sponsored us. And there was a breakout in 2024 called Negro Amnesia, where you forgot where you came from and forgot how you got where you got. Therefore, they're trying to take back everything you had.
That I want to end. He talked about the dry bones in the valley.
I'll tell you that.
The only reason that the wind could blow life into the bones is because at some point they had to be connected. If the wind had blown into a disconnected body, it still wouldn't have worked. So before he prophesied to the wind, they had to first get the foot bone to connect to the ankle bone, and the ankle bone to the calf bone, and to the knee bone, and the knee bone to the thigh bone. If we are to prophesy to the wind, we must first connect this body. We must connect Eddie Long to Farrakhan and Cornel West to Elders and Lowry to Sharpton. If we can connect this body, then God will blow the breath of life into our community. But as long as we are disconnected, the wind can't blow because it's blowing on disconnected dry bones. But the good news is that we're the children of people that have been through worse than this, and we're still here. So even though I get despondent, I don't ever get depressed, because I want the world to know you won't beat us, because we're the children of those that took the worst form of slavery and brutality that ever lived, that ever existed. Our parents survived the Middle Passage. Only the strong got here, and then we lost our name, our culture, our religion, and we're still here. But you don't know who we are. We're the children of Chaka Zulu. We're the children of Mary McLeod Bethune. We're the children of Marcus Garvey. We're the children of Martin Luther King. We'll be here. We were first, and we'll be last. We know who we are.
Where in history is this? He said we always go one step forward and two backward. Well, here we are now. The problem is not Trump. The problem is us. We are allowing ourselves to be lowered and our children to feel inferior because you don't have an I am somebody person. You got our artists calling our women bees. Our others calling us niggas. What happened to us? What happened to black and proud? What happened? I'm gonna vote. What happened? Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. What happened to us?
Many people cannot focus because they have not really come to terms with their calling and life purpose. In order to focus, you must also be clear on what you're focusing on. So if you're not clear on your purpose, if you're not clear on your life's calling, then focus on seeking that. Because if you just read the ways and roads you traveled that you didn't even choose, that were sort of just laid out for you by God, in that it's telling you, speaking to you about what your purpose is and what you were born to do and be. I learned the things that I didn't plan had to be planned by God, and God's plan was directed toward God's purpose in my life. And I focus on that. Not focus on what others do, not focus on how well they're doing or bad they're doing, but focus on whether I'm in line and aligned with what I'm supposed to be about. And in order to move straight ahead, you have to be focused on the path you're running on.
I want to turn the floor over to you, Mr.
Well, thank you, President Dr. Kimball, and to all of you on the board. I wanted to personally make this appeal from National Action Network and Martin Luther King III and Andrea Waters King, that we've been moving around the country organizing to deal with the question of redistricting when they have used the Supreme Court now to redraw lines that will in many ways break up majority black voting districts. It means that they dilute the strength of our community. It will cost probably 19 members of the Congressional Black Caucus. But as important, if not more important, it will not address the needs of those constituents because they don't have a block vote to say we're going to put in somebody that wants to do what is right for us or not. And that does not necessarily all the time mean a black person, but it gives them power. In Memphis, Tennessee, the majority black district congressman supported and re-elected several times.
You're live, sir.
Keeping it real, keeping it real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're back. Attorney Jennifer Jones Austin is our co-host. Don't forget, watch Politics Nation with Al Sharpton this Saturday and Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time on MS Now. And, of course, both days are going to be action-packed. I'm going to have some of the winners of the midterm primaries. El Said will be one of them from Michigan this weekend, and other people that have been engaged. But I'm also going to have some of the people that are dealing on the ground with some of the Trump policies in the Senate and the Congress that are hitting you and I, whether we're Democrat or Republican. So I've got great two-night panels set up. Don't miss either night as we march next Friday. This will be the last weekend of Politics Nation before the big march. You are not going to want to miss it. Let us also, for you that are in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area, meet me at the Saturday Action Rally as we do the Saturday Action Rally at the House of Justice, 6 Hancock Place, which is at 124th and Morningside. And clearly, this is the last Saturday rally before the march. We're going to lay out a lot of instructions, a lot of why we march, and rally our people. It's going to get us energized and ready to make history next Friday. And also, for you that are in the D.C. area, I'll be preaching Sunday morning at Howard University at Crampton Auditorium. I'll be the morning preacher, and I look for many of you to join me at Howard University Crampton Auditorium on Sunday morning, this Sunday morning at 11 a.m. service. And our chapter, we have a chapter on Howard University's campus. Our chapter is going to be there, and many of the Divine Nine has done commercials. The young students, going to be a lot of young students active in this march. I'm excited about it. Also, don't forget, you that are not in New York or Washington, you can watch the Saturday Action Rally on Impact Television, on a live stream at www.nationalactionnetwork.net, on YouTube/NAN, or on the AME Zion Network. All right, let's go to Todd. Todd, you're keeping it real, Sharpton and Jones Austin.
You hear me okay?
I hear you fine.
Okay. Reverend L. Sharpton, Jennifer Jones Austin. I have a question about topics that may be, actually I know you're going to address, But to what degree you're going to address at the march on the 28th? There's multiple issues of government funding mismanagement. Is there any one particular thing of government funding mismanagement that you particularly want to address that you find most personal? Either one of the two of you?
Well, you're in a indirect way trying to ask us to give you our speech now, and I'm not going to do that.
No,
well,
that's
you
not
asking me what we're going to discuss at what we're going to say at the march. I've been many things, Todd. Stupid ain't one of them. I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to say at the march. I'm going to say it at the march.
There was no intention to give you that. There was no intention to.
You said that you know we're going to say some things, but can you tell us now where we going to emphasize? That interprets to me that you're asking me to tell you what the part I'm going to say. And I'm telling you, that's why people come to the marches, to hear the speeches. Not if I was going to do that the speech in advance, that wouldn't be fair to the other speakers. So you let it go, so go ahead.
Yeah, I've never said anything to you that should make you think that I think at all that you're stupid. So I'll just move forward. So in reference to what Jennifer said earlier in the broadcast when she was talking about the $1,000, which I believe only has one flaw. The $1,000 is being made available for children that were born in this country between 25 and soon to be born and 2026, what's left, 7 and 28, is that the amount of money should have been higher, and there is not clarity as to how they came to the conclusion of $1,000 versus $5,000 or any other amount of money, and it's all taxpayer money. I know that this is the government's position to get people more financially literate, and this particular $1,000 made available to these children so that they can claim it at 18 is saying we're going to pay you, and we're going to pay you, and we're going to let the people that are responsible for you, who sign you up for this, have now incentives at $1,000 to become more financially literate people through government. It's not much different, but it is subtly different than government-funded public schools, which are mostly underfunded because of their poor civics education, but still the same. The government wants you to become a better educated person, so the government has public, taxpayer-funded neighborhood public schools, and we shouldn't talk down the government's input in those two pursuits that I'm talking about in this broadcast. What we should be talking up more is private citizen participation in moving these particular pursuits forward at a greater degree of strength.
Jenny?
First and foremost, Todd, I want you to listen to me carefully and clearly. When I talk about the $1,000, what I'm trying to get across is that the impact of that $1,000 will not be experienced equally or equitably. I never said that $1,000 per child is a bad thing. What I continue to speak to week after week is how the impact of it will be experienced very differently. That when you give money to people who already have money, it just gives them more money. It does not begin to equalize or make more equitable the playing field. Additionally, when you dig into all of the elements and components of this $1,000 distribution, if you will, to every child born in the United States between 25 and 28. You know, one of the callers last week, well informed about this, really helped us all, to appreciate even more of it. There are tax benefits associated with it for people who have more wealth than families that have little wealth. Your parents, family members, friends can contribute $5,000, up to $5,000 per child. So, it's an investment. And those families can keep growing that money for that child, and they receive some tax benefits from it. And so this is yet again Trump ensuring that those who have wealth can keep building more and more wealth compared to those who have little to no wealth. It's not just free money, and it's not money that is going to be put in children's accounts where everything is equal. And what saddens me is that what I'm trying to do is to help us all understand that nothing here is free, and that we live in a society where the wealthy, as we talked last week or 2 weeks ago, where my father talked about years ago, that we live in a society where it's capitalism for the poor and socialism for the rich. What Donald Trump keeps on doing is setting up programs that benefit disproportionately the rich, those who have. But he does it in a way that makes everybody think they're getting something. But the people who come up short every time are the people who have little to none. Those tax cuts that he took in 2016 and again in 2025, they benefited disproportionately the rich, but he gave a little bit to those with little to no income to make them think they were getting some. So my aim here is not to say money is bad money, but my aim is to help people appreciate that it's not equal, and it's not moving the ball down the field for everybody in an equal and equitable manner. That's what I'm talking about.
All right, thank you for your call, Todd. Let's go to Leroy in Detroit. Leroy.
Yes, thanks for taking my call. And I know that you're about to interview Abdul Said from Michigan. And this is the thing, Rev, about that, is that it's okay that, for the Arab, for y'all to get them with so-called progressives. This is the deal, though, in the Detroit area. The Chaldeans, Arabs, on every business, on every corner. And, it astounds me that nobody black could get into those. Now they took over Wayne County Community College, a school that was started in 1967 after the Detroit riots. They got all the young ladies in the nursing program, not all of them, but I guess all who want to go, because it's overpopulated by them. And our young ladies are somehow on the outskirts. And that's what bothers me about
No, I'm glad you called and said that, because I think, and that's one of the things that I've been saying, and I will address it with El Sahid, is that we are in a place now in Detroit. I remember years ago, Reverend Charles Williams, who heads our chapter there, having to deal with Arab gas station owners and others that was disrespecting our community. Now they've taken a lot of things in our community, yet they want to challenge many of us on what is right to be challenged, that we support them against what's going on in Gaza. But then you can't turn around and not deal respectfully with our institutions and our empowerment in our communities. It has to be both ways. And that is why I want to deal with this whole thing of us uniting. Unity means that all sides are equally serviced. Unity doesn't mean I stand up for you, but you look the other way when people are exploiting my community, or when we are, like Wayne County's taking from, and other things. You're not talking about power sharing, you're talking about power shifting. And to tell me about one race that exploits us, I'm not looking for you to replace them. I'm looking for freedom.
Well, and this is the whole point, and I hope you do get on them, because they think that we're beneath them. And I'm telling you, I'm calling it like I see it. The Arabic and the Chaldean community and others, they ain't the only ones, and others think that black folks are beneath them. And some black folks think that we're beneath them too.
But that's part of the problem. No, but I am definitely going to raise that. And I intend, when I do my tour after the march in September, is to deal with that in Detroit. Because people, we like in some situations going from one bad situation to another bad situation. And that is insane. And I'm glad you brought it up, and I certainly will be bringing it up. Thank you for your call. I hear the music. I'm getting ready to have to go. Let me thank Attorney Jennifer Jones Austin. Let me thank all of you that called in and listened in, and you that called in, listened in, and couldn't get through, but hung in there anyhow. Remember, whatever you do, wherever you go, however you feel, tell somebody, tell anybody, tell everybody. Reverend Al told you personally, keep it real. Keep it real. Keep it real. I'll talk to you tomorrow.